YouTube. This is BoxingWave. I'm gonna try to keep this one short. Every time I say that, I never do. But anyway, let's talk Andre Ward. Okay, it's official. He's signed a 3-fight deal with HBO. Okay, and in this 3-fight deal, he's supposed to fight Sergey Kovalev, the champ at 175, at the end of 2016. His next fight, his first fight, Andre Ward in his 3-fight deal will be on HBO on the HBO pay-per-view on the other card of Cotto and Canelo against Alexander Brand. Okay, this is Ward's first fight, I believe. Ward's first fight at 175, even though hasn't fought at 175 yet. He's fought at a catchweight against Paul Smith at 172, and Alexander Brand is actually a super middleweight fighter. Okay, now we all know a few days ago or earlier this week, Ward tried to secure a fight with Rohan Murdoch, I believe. Okay, Australian fighter, super middleweight. That is I believe he's only suffered one loss, I think. Okay, but he was 18 wins, 14 knockouts. I made a video about that the other day. And the Nevada State Athletic Commission did not sanction this fight, okay, because they felt that this guy, Andre Ward, is a little too out of his league to be fighting a guy like Rohan Murdoch, okay? So that fight didn't happen. And now he's finally found an opponent in Alexander Brand, all right? Now, I've seen this guy fight. I didn't want to make a video without watching him fight first. Regardless of what BoxRec says, I know he's only lost one fight. It was against Badou Jack, and it was a split decision, I believe. So I didn't see the fight because I tried to look that fight up, but I couldn't find it online. So, it's a split decision. So it means that the fight was pretty competitive based on what the judges say, whatever that means. If I didn't see the fight, I can't call it. But anyway, split decision, loss to Badou Jack. All right, Badou Jack is now a champion down at 168, the division that Andre Ward is leaving. Now, this is how I feel about that. Let's just talk about Alexander Brand a little bit. All right? Colombian fighter, 38 years old, only one loss. I've seen his fights. What do I think about him? I still think he's on the level of Murdoch. I don't think he's good. I mean, just based on how I feel, how I judge talent, I don't really think he's that talented. I think he fights a little bit like Ricardo Mayorga, all right? Think he's like kind of wild, not much, technique in his style, but whatever, This is a tune-up fight, okay? I don't think he's as good as Paul Smith, the fighter that Andre Ward fought earlier this year and was highly criticized for fighting Paul Smith, even though Paul Smith is a much better fighter than Brand or Murdoch, all right? So, as far as the split decision thing with Badou Jack, now, I don't remember how old this fight was, but we can all agree that Badou Jack has become a much better fighter, even since his knockout loss, all right? Badou Jack is a much better fighter, okay? And we see that in boxing. A guy can improve dramatically within a couple of years. The guy beat Anthony Durrell. He's beaten George Groves, a guy that beat James Aguel. The guy that I feel is the most dangerous fighter at 168 right now. So I'm reading the article and I see Dan Refield still had a right that Andre Ward cleared out the division, which he did 4 years ago. Yes, 4 years ago he did. But he hasn't cleared out the division today, and he's never been undisputed. So technically, he didn't really clear out the division, if we being real. But he did beat the top fighters, the most talented fighters in the division. He did. He beat Froch, he beat Arthur Abraham, Mikhail Kessler, all of those guys. All right, he won the Super 6. Cool. But there's new fighters there. James DeGale, who I thought was going to be his toughest fight to date. Andre Ward did not fight him, okay? And, I was hoping he fought him, but if not fight him, at least move up to 175. Okay, he didn't fight Badu Jack neither. The other champ, Arthur Abraham, who's holding the title, he did beat him before. Okay, so that's fine. But I would have liked him to fight James DeGale, but I think there are tougher fights at 175 for Andre Ward than James DeGale, even James DeGale. Okay, as good as I think James DeGale is. I made a video on the light heavyweight division. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Pretty, lengthy video, but there's a lot of good fighters up at 175. All right, so now this is my problem with this. All right, like I said, honestly, I don't think Brand is really that good of an opponent. I see where they're doing this. Okay, we're gonna make sure Ward wins these 2 fights before getting in the ring with Kovalev, because that's the big fight. I don't know if they're gonna try to make that a pay-per-view, but that will be a huge fight. My problem is Kovalev is an extremely dangerous fighter. And even if you make it to him without losing, and he doesn't lose his next couple of fights, how are you preparing yourself for Sergey Kovalev? How are you preparing yourself for that fight? Because Kovalev is a pretty skilled boxer. Maybe not as skilled as Andre Ward, but he's up there, and the guy punches a hell of a lot harder than Andre Ward. And at any given moment could knock anyone out at 175. So how are you preparing yourself for Sergey Kovalev while trying to take fights where you don't want to lose before those? Because I understand the game. You don't want to take an extremely tough fight, but at the same time, you don't want to take bums because you haven't been active. In the last few years, you really haven't been that active. You come back, you fight Paul Smith, which is a fighter that is good to come back. We can let that one slide because it was your returning fight. But now you have downgraded in opposition by fighting this Brand guy. So how do you prepare yourself for Sergey Kovalev? And Sergey Kovalev, even though he's fought Muhammadi, he's fighting Jean Pascal in a rematch now. Still, I feel like he should be able to beat Pascal more convincingly than he did in the first fight. It's still John Pascal. At least it's a better fight, It's much better than many of the other fights that could be made at 168 or 175. How is Ward preparing himself? That's my only question. I don't want to see Ward go in there with Kovalev and get knocked out. Because people are going to be hurt. And I'm going to be hurt. I'm going to be hurt if Andre Ward were to get knocked out by Kovalev. I mean, I like Kovalev and everything, but I want Andre Ward to win. And there's many people that still feel that Andre Ward is pound for pound the best boxer in the sport. Now that Floyd is retired. But if he goes in there and gets abused by Kovalev, well, I'm going to sit here and say, see, why was he fighting real fighters to stay sharp to lead up to that match? You know what I'm saying? And, I just, Kovalev, the guy has been busy regardless, I think he's going to be fine with whoever he's fighting. He's been fighting good fighters. I wasn't really high on Muhammadi, but, listen. He's fought Pascal earlier this year. He's fought Bernard Hopkins last year. He's been fighting good fighters throughout, he's been fighting who he can, top ranking fighters, you know what I'm saying? There's a few guys I would like him to fight, but he's been pretty active and, consistent with the quality of opposition, where I can't say that for Ward. The quality of opposition lately and his inactivity is a huge problem to me. And I don't know why people continue to not see this. How can you sit here and try to make an excuse of him fighting Brand? There's so many fighters that he could be fighting to prepare himself for a tough match. And we don't want him to lose the match, but he has to get. I don't want him to get embarrassed, man. But it can happen. You know, when it comes down to it, I don't know who I'm going to pick that day. Because I would like to see more of Ward. I want to see how he looks in his next couple of fights. You know, I'm pretty sure what we're getting from Kovalev, we're going to get the next couple of fights or whatever, how many, X amount of fights he have in the next couple of years. I mean, or leading up to Andre Ward. But I'm worried about Andre Ward. I'm very, very worried. And I don't like this take a couple easy matchup things because 175 is tough. And you going straight to the best top dog at 175. Whether you think Stevenson is that guy or Kovalev is that guy, you going up to against a dangerous fighter and a knockout puncher at that. Kovalev is by far better than anyone Andre Ward has faced. By far. Carl Froch, he's up there, you know, but he's not Kovalev. Kovalev is on a different level to me. You know, Chad Dawson at 168, Kovalev would have knocked him out at 175 or 168 or whatever. You know, Ward hasn't been in the ring with anyone as good as Kovalev. And I think he should take this fight more serious. Let's forget about I've seen his comments before. I've seen the statements he made about Kovalev before. You know, they say that there's this boogeyman at 175. You know, that's cool. That's sweet. It's funny. And, you know, and I think Kovalev, and listen, I understand Andre Ward, as he's been fighting. He's fought guys with power. But Kovalev is a different guy. And whoever had any doubt with Kovalev, we saw that in the Hopkins fight. You know, Hopkins lost fights before, but he's never been completely humiliated like the way Kovalev beat him. So, I hope Ward steps it up, that second fight. Hope that second fight is against someone that's going to give him a rough fight before getting that Kovalev fight. Because we need that. He needs another fight like that. You know, he needs to get hit. And he needs to, you know, prepare himself for Kovalev. Because Kovalev is coming. And Kovalev is going to try to knock you out, you know. And he's a pretty good boxer, in my opinion. So anyway, I'm out. I'm not going to make it too much longer. Let me know what you guys think on this fight. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Throw some names out there that you would have liked Ward to see, you know. Ward to fight or whatever leading up to this Kovalev fight. Too bad we're already getting Brand. And I understand with timing and everything, you got to look for someone to jump in the ring quick. I understand they didn't have much time. But when they announced this Canelo Cotto thing months ago, we knew then that they were trying to put Ward on that undercard because he's Rock Nation. I mean, it's been a couple of months, 2-3 months now since we heard that Ward possibly being on the undercard. So what happened all this time? You know, hopefully, you know, I understand it's hard to get opponents sometimes, but you got to get some type of quality in the fight, you know. I mean, I'm glad he's fighting, but I don't know, man. Let me know what you guys think, though.